Not without reason was it referred to as the balance of terror back then. It is precisely about this balance, about calibrating and maintaining second strike capability. This capability deters a potential aggressor from executing the first strike because they must expect to be destroyed as the second. The political West is doing everything to throw this balance off. International treaties often emphasize that the security of one should not be developed or ensured at the expense of another's security. But who still adheres to this? What has become of the communication channels that were created for times of crisis? The NATO-Russia Council and various other discussion forums have been suspended or completely abolished. Since the Russian invasion of Ukraine, it has become common to hold détente politicians partly responsible for this development, and to blame them for the fact that the Russian attack happened at all. Many of these détente politicians, including well-known ones, are now withdrawing and declaring this policy a regrettable mistake. In my opinion, however, it is exactly the opposite. It is not the détente politicians who are responsible for the current situation, but the fact that they were unable to implement their policies. One could and should argue about this in a fact-based and civilized manner. One should not dismiss every argument that does not align with the current government line as disinformation or fake news to make it undebatable. Or even worse, label it as Russian propaganda, which we are supposedly all falling for en masse. One could argue about this endlessly. But what seems much more important to me is to look forward. That is challenging enough. To develop a perspective, it requires a candid assessment and the identification of interests. Let's start with interests. Peaceful politics is nothing more than a functioning balance of interests. It's not about morality, as is often claimed. Even the Democratic presidential candidate in the USA, Kamala Harris, said at the Munich Security Conference regarding American engagement in Europe, "We do this not out of charity, but because it is in our strategic interest." It would be good if Germany and the EU started to formulate their strategic interests. There are certainly points of contact with the USA, or overlaps, as we like to say today. But there are also significant differences that should not be underestimated. These differences need to be worked out and clearly identified. For example, it is in the interest of the EU, especially Germany, to maintain good relations with Russia. Likewise, it is in Russia's interest to have good relations with the EU and Germany. We are not only neighbors, but also natural partners who complement each other. However, this is not at all in the interest of the USA. Quite the opposite. There is a reason why American documents state that the only real threat to the USA's dominance is a functioning Eurasian continent. China plays a special role. From the U.S. perspective, the danger of good cooperation with China is averted for the time being. The only ones benefiting from this situation are the U.S. and the arms industry. For the U.S., it is a success to have achieved their strategic goal. This goal, which has appeared in official documents for about 100 years, is to prevent or destroy prosperous cooperation on the Eurasian continent. Furthermore, they can sell their environmentally harmful and expensive fracking gas and have eliminated the cheap competition that we had right on our doorstep.
In Deutschland sind die Energiepreise so hoch, dass es für viele
In Germany, energy prices are so high that it is becoming, or has already become, existentially threatening for many businesses. This is not because Russia has turned off the gas supply, as is often claimed. Rather, we have voluntarily given up Russian gas to avoid supporting the Russian war machinery. The crazy part is that we are still getting Russian gas, just through indirect routes and at a much higher price.
und ein Vielfaches teurer.